Hello, everyone. We are just going to wait a few more minutes before starting our presentation. Thank you.
Hello, friends. This is just to make sure that you can hear me. Hello. Hello, friends. This is just to make sure that you can hear me. Okay.
Hello, and I serve college's Columbus family and key college event. We hope we have two for Yvonne topic of network.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is, like she said, 𝙒𝙀, and I'm going to be hosting a networking workshop. And first of all, I just want to introduce myself for you guys to get to know me a little bit better. Just going to go into my past positions within Circle K. So just give me 1 second. Okay. So Okay, so I started Circle K a while ago, and my first position was actually the club fundraising chair for Orange Coast College. Then at the same year, I was the Finance and Fundraising Committee Divisional Liaison for the Paradise Division. I also served as an international chair. I was for the International Expansion Committee. And the year after, I was the Finance and Fundraising Committee Executive Assistant. Then I moved on to Club Treasurer, then District Treasurer, and my last position at the beginning of the year was onto International Convention Chair. So that is the experience that I have in Circle K. Yeah. So moving on to the workshop. So what is networking? Well, networking, like it says there, it's interacting with other people to exchange information and develop context, especially to further one's career. However, it is not just that. Like networking is, the point of networking is getting to people to know you, because there's a saying that it's like, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but I would even take it a step further, and it's not even that. It's not what you know or who you know, it's who knows you. Because you can meet everybody in the world if you want, but if nobody remembers you or knows who you are, then it's really not going to have any impact on your personal life, your career, or anything like that. So the goal is to leave an impression in other people, so you can eventually have those people as contacts and they can remember you and trust you enough to recommend you, to hire you, and all that good stuff. So why network? So like I said, networking is not just to exchange information. You want to establish the relationships, because if you don't have a relationship, it's really not a network if you don't know them at all. And your network is anyone, like you, colleagues as you go through your career, like students around you, your friends, your family, anything is a network. But the reason that we network is because we hope to one day use that network to help us further ourselves personally and professionally, usually professionally. And a networking contact may result in any of the following. So this is what you hope to get from networking. So you want inside information of what's happening in your field of interest, such as organizations' plans to expand operations or release a new product. And this is important because if you're trying to get into a business or trying to get a job or something like that, you want to know what's happening in those specific positions in that job market and stuff like that. So you can be prepared during interviews, or you can be prepared to apply if you know somewhere is opening applications or any stuff like that. So job search advice specific to your field of interest, like where jobs are typically listed. This one is really important because if you know somebody that works for a specific company and you want to work for that company as well, then you can ask them what they're looking for in a specific position, and you can be ready when the questions come, or you can just impress them by putting stuff that they're looking for in your resume and stand out from the crowd from having that information. Tips on your job hunting tools. Like I said, like resume is really important. Not every career requires a resume. A lot of them require portfolios, kind of like what I do. I do film, so more than a resume, it's a reel or portfolio or something like that, just like a group of work that you've put together to show what you can and can't do. And you really want to know what the hiring manager or hiring person is looking for, and you can really get this information through your network. A lot of times you have a network that kind of knows what you want to do or where you want to go and stuff like that, but they're not the most qualified person for it. However, there's a chance that they might know somebody that is. Therefore, you can get through your network the name of people to contact about possible employment. And this is really helpful because, like I said, like you might know people that are kind of in the field, but not really, but they do know somebody that is. And if they give you their name, if they give them your name, then you've built a bridge there. Like you have an in that other people don't have that are just applying out of the blue, because it's usually like a trusted person or somebody that they have a connection with. Therefore, your name is already ahead of everybody else's. And later on is if you do have a network and you do get the interview and you go to the job, it is more likely to get a follow-up interview and a possible job offer if you have somebody that works there because they recommend you. And basically, by them recommending you, they're putting their name on the line, kind of, to ensure that you get the job. They're vouching for you, basically. So by having somebody that already is trusted in there, you have a better opportunity to move on in that area. So what is networking? Like, we're going to try to break it down a little bit. So there's business networking, which is the one that you use to further you professionally. There's personal networking, which is just your personal life, your friends. And then there's online or artificial networking, which is kind of a mix of both, because anything that happens online is called an artificial network. And what this means is, for example, any connections you have on like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and all that stuff could potentially be a network. However, a lot of these people you're not like close to, or you don't really know personally, but they still know who you are. Therefore, it is a network, but it is not the strongest of networks. Like, for example, a business artificial network would be kind of like LinkedIn, when you have a common connection and you add them to your like LinkedIn. And therefore, you do have now a connection does exist, but it is not a very strong one. So it is called an artificial or online network. Right now, for this workshop, we're going to be focusing mostly on the business networking side of networking, which is what I'm assuming you guys are here for. So different approaches to networking. We're going to start with the soft network first. It is the most commonly used, which is kind of like it says there, it's kind of like socializing, and you just hope that by socializing, somebody will like listen to you, like you, and give you an opportunity. The good side of it is that it exposes you to new people and new ideas, and you can meet a lot of people through doing activities such as soft networking. But it is a very passive approach. You basically, like it says there, revolves around the assumption that if you give your elevator pitch enough time, something will happen. So it assumes that you are going to walk up to somebody, talk to them, sell yourself well enough that they're going to be like, "Oh, you know what? I like you. You should come work with me." Or like you go to somebody and you have a common interest and stuff like that, so they want you to work for them or something like that. It does happen. It is possible. However, it's a very hopeful type of approach, that you're hoping that just by saying something without specifically indicating what you want, that you will get opportunities like that. Like I said, it is the most commonly used. It is pretty much what we do every day in our lives when we talk to a professor, when we do stuff like that. We want to create that more personal connection. However, it is not guaranteed that you will move on in like the grand scale of things for like a job opportunity and stuff like that. And the other type is hard networking. So for hard networking, it is way more direct. Like it says, there's a much more proactive and agenda driven. It is usually done one by one. It is not in a social setting like soft networking where you go and there's a lot of people. It's usually when you ask somebody to meet with you one-on-one, and you ask them specifically for what you want. So you're going there and you're like, "Hello, my name is Ivan and I do film. So I believe I would be a good match for your company," or something like that. However, it is you need to be a lot more prepared than this. This was super like made up just on the spot. If you're going to do a hard network, you need to be really prepared, know what you're going to say, and you're basically like soft network trying to sell yourself, but you're trying to sell yourself with a goal in mind, which is hopefully to get the job. So you're basically directly asking the employer, the manager, whatever it is, for that opportunity. And some examples where we can see this a lot is salespeople, politicians, or fundraising professionals. When they go to you and they talk to you, they're talking to you for the specific purpose of trying to get you on their side, whether it's salespeople trying to sell you something, politicians trying for you to vote for them or to agree with their stands, or fundraising professionals to try to donate money. These people are usually, like it says, not afraid to ask for the favor. They just know what they want and they hope to get it. And if not, they move on to the next person, basically. And there's something that you need to know about this. It is that you need to know when to draw the line, because there is a difference between networking and asking for stuff and then just being annoying, for the lack of a better word. Like if you're only talking to people to ask them for favors, it's going to reach a point where nobody's going to want to do it, because they know that you're the kind of person that is basically using people, which we'll talk about in a second. So personal branding for networking. This is really important, because your personal brand is the first thing they usually see when they meet you, especially if you're networking in a social setting. They see you before they hear you, before they see your resume, before they know what you do, what you can and can't do, and stuff like that. So really important is your appearance, but this varies widely depending on the field that you're in. So, for example, if you're going to go into business or something like that, it's probably expected that you're a little more clean cut. I'm going into film, so it's a little more lax, but so just make sure you know what kind of appearance, I guess, is expected of you. It doesn't mean that you have to change how you look. Just make sure that you're dressed appropriately for the situation that you're going to be in. Next is hygiene, which is super important because it doesn't matter how confident you are, which is one of the next ones. You could be the most confident, the most likable person, and if you walk in there and you're like dirty and you smell, nobody's going to want to talk to you. And your elevator pitch. This is super important because it is basically a 30-second pitch that you have to sell yourself. And a lot of people, if they don't know you, they're not really interested in you unless you interest them by something that you do or say. Therefore, your elevator pitch is something that you should have rehearsed, and it's very important. Especially, I mean, you guys have all practiced an elevator pitch for the most part if you're in Key Club, Key Wins, or Circle K or something like that, because you have to usually sell Circle K, Key Club, or Key Wins to get people to join. That is an elevator pitch. So you just have to adapt that to basically yourself. And why should people want to know you, and why should people want to hire you and stuff like that? You're basically doing the same thing, but with yourself. So you're selling yourself as an idea of someone that could do well in that environment. Next is your resume. This is really important because after you've met them in person, that's what they ask for, usually, your resume. So if you make a good first impression, you want to keep that impression up by sending a good polished resume. It is understandable if you don't have like the best experience or something like that, especially at the age that you are, because you haven't had a lot of time to gain the experience. However, if you need to make sure that your resume is professional looking, regardless of the experience that you're putting in there, you can have the best experience, but your resume is messy and it's intelligible and like stuff like that, and people just won't read it and they will skip through it because they don't have time to try to decipher it, basically. And I think the most important of all is confidence, because you can't leave a good first impression with no confidence, because it'll be hard to talk to people. If you do pass that and then go to the job interview and you don't have confidence, it'll show, and it'll be hard for you to answer questions and stuff like that. And usually people want confident people that can benefit their brand. And confidence really is one of the things that really helps in a situation where you're meeting people, and to leave a good first impression and to get them to want to know you better, and therefore offer you opportunities in the future. So networking in Circle K, which is something that you will do hopefully in your next year, but this can apply to Kiwanis, Key Club, Key Wins, anything, is you can network with anybody in Kiwanis family branches, and we do this a lot in any Kiwanis family event. So you network with other clubs, with your Kiwanis advisors, with anyone really that has any connection with your specific Kiwanis branch. You can network with alumni, whether it's in my case with a college alumni, in your case with high school alumni, because these people all have something in common with you. They usually know that Circle K and Kiwanis and anything in the Kiwanis branch, really, Key Club, Key Wins, and below, are places that develop people well, and develop leaders, and develop people with confidence usually, and develop people with good organizational skills and all that stuff. So they already know something about you by you being associated to these organizations, if they were as well. Another thing is staff. So you can talk to teachers, professors, faculty and staff. It doesn't matter. Like, just get to know your professors, especially going into college. Get to know your professors, because these people will serve for you later on if you need a reference, if you need anything like that. So make sure to maybe stay after class a little bit, talk to your professor, and just make sure that they know who you are. A lot of times in college, the classes are really big. There's over 100 students sometimes. And they don't get to know everybody. They don't remember everybody's names. However, they do remember the people that stay after and ask questions and show an interest in the class and in the professor as well. The next is your advisors. Your advisors are people that you usually have a lot of connections with, that you see very often. So you can definitely use them for advice and anything like that. Companies and businesses are people that you can, or are places that you can network as well. And that is, for example, in my case, when I was fundraising chair, I would reach out to companies, businesses, and stuff like that for fundraising opportunities or for donations and whatnot. And I would try to keep in touch to make sure that we could further that connection and continue using donations from them in the future. And this is really important because later on, once you establish a connection, first of all, it's easier, and then you can ask them Like if you need a donation, for example. This is just specifically for fundraising because of what I do, but you can apply this to, as what I do in Circle K, but you can apply this to other areas as well. So you build a connection, and then later on when you need something and you ask them a question, even if they can't provide it, they usually will try to help you in some way, especially if you've been, if you've treated them well and if you've shown interest and you just don't email them all the time to ask for stuff. You build that connection, and then later on when you need it, they can offer you a reference for somebody else, and you can continue on like that. Same with venues, is very similar to companies and businesses, especially if you're going to do events. And just make sure that, networking in Circle K, when you're building a network in any branch of the Kiwanis family, like you're doing it in a comfortable environment, because you know the environment, you usually know the people, or at least you know that you have something in common by being in Circle K or any branch of the Kiwanis family. And when you do this, you are doing it in a comfortable environment, and you're practicing. So practice your networking when you go to college, whether Circle K or any other organization, doesn't matter. Just, you know that by being in that same club or the same class or something, there's something you have in common. Therefore, try to practice talking to people and getting to know people better. And then you can apply this to real life opportunities later on. So these are some very important networking skills that you need. You need to reach out to people, first of all, but you need to know who you're reaching out to. Because if you just, let's say that you're doing it through email, right? And you email someone and you reach out and you ask for advice, it's going to be more likely if you email them by name. So let's say their name is John Smith. If you're like, "Dear Mr. Smith," it's going to be more likely that they're going to pay more attention to your email than if somebody says, "To whom it may concern," because it shows that you've done research and you know who you're reaching out to, and they know that you're interested in them and in the position and all that stuff. Use positive language. This is really important because positive language shows, it just leaves a better impression. So one example, this is it's kind of like, if you are late to something, don't be like, "I am so sorry I'm late." Be like, "Thank you for waiting," something like that. That is positive language. You're basically admitting that you did something wrong, but thanking them for basically putting up with it. So try to keep it positive when you talk to these people, because you don't want to leave that negative impression. Even though you may have already been this example by being late, you're still turning it around by showing that you acknowledge it. So the next is to take care of your power contacts. So power contacts are the people that you know will serve in the future as someone that can definitely get you a job, or at least get you closer to something like that. These are the ones that are really important. Any contact is important, but these are the ones that are specifically important because this is really the goal of networking, right? You want to meet somebody that can hopefully offer you a professional opportunity in the future. And you take care of power contacts, not just by emailing them when you need something. You're not like, "Hello, I need a job. Thank you. Cool." And then wait until they say yes or no, right? When you're networking with people, you want to email them constantly, but not annoy them. So once every maybe couple months or something like that, it's fine. And try to keep up with what they're doing. So in my situation in film, we have to network a lot. It's really a huge part of what we do. So if I'm emailing somebody, I don't just email like, "Hey, are you filming something? Can I get on your set," or something like that. I usually find out if they're doing some new project, and I email them and I'm like, "Hey, I heard you're working on this new thing. I find it really interesting. I read that it was about this and that. Can you tell me more about it?" Just show interest in their life as well, and then you will build a rapport. And then later on, they'll either even invite you somewhere, or "I like to work," or you can eventually ask for the favor, and that it won't feel like you're a leech, which we'll talk about in a second. So you need to learn how to email. This is really important because even if you meet the people in person, you're not going to be meeting them in person every single time. For the most part, you're going to be doing emails. And if you're doing emails, you want to make sure that what's the word I'm trying to look for? That the first impression stays up, especially if you had a really good first impression. You don't want to email and then be full of like spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes, or just be completely unprofessional and stuff like that. So really learn how to do professional emails. This is super important because email, like, they decide if they want to reply to you or not. It's not like in person, if you say hi to someone, it's rude if you don't say hello back. They completely decide if they want to email you back or not. So it's really important for you to learn how to email. And especially don't just email to ask for favors. Next one is don't expect anything. This one is really important because a lot of people think that just because you met someone, they like are going to do you a favor. That's 100% not true. It is totally up to them. They might not have any opportunities right now or something like that. So even if you build a relationship with somebody and then you ask for a favor and they say no, they don't owe you anything, right? You're the one that's asking for the favor. So don't expect them to say yes or no. And then if they say no, it's fine. Don't completely ignore them past that. You still want to keep them as a contact because later on they might have an opportunity for you. So don't start ignoring them. And then try to move on to other opportunities, and maybe you can revisit this opportunity later on. So we have the leeches. Leeches are the people that try to use you only for favors. And this is why we say don't only talk to your contacts about favors. Like, don't just ask for favors. You want to show that you have an interest in them. So when you talk to them, you're usually trying to show that you care about them. You're not just trying to talk about yourself, because they don't know you. They don't really, they don't really care who you are, especially if they really don't know you at all. So you want to talk to them about stuff, and then what you learn from them, see what you have in common, and then you can share about yourself. And then you start building the relationship through that. But if you're only talking to them for favors, or if people are only asking you for favors, you're turning into a leech, or they are leeches asking you for stuff. And you don't want these people, because these people are the ones that just do the like negative side, the favor stuff. And it's really not a contact that you necessarily need. It doesn't mean that you completely have to ignore them. Just use your judgment and see who you want to keep and who you don't. And then make networking a regular activity. Like I said before, networking is everywhere. So your friends, your family, your teachers, the staff, alumni, anybody in the same organizations that you're at, if you, anything like that. All of those are networks. So if you meet someone, it doesn't mean that you have to keep in touch with every single person you meet, but anybody that you see that has something in common with you or that could help you in the future, sometimes it doesn't hurt to ask for their contact information, or look them up on LinkedIn or something like that, and try to stay in touch. And if you make this a regular activity, you'll get a lot more comfortable with it. And later on, it's going to be a lot easier. It's going to be like a second nature to you. And it's really important, especially in college, I feel, because right after college, we're expected to get a job and stuff like that. And it's hard because you don't really have that much experience, given that you're still studying. So if you become comfortable with it, then it's easier for you to get those opportunities in the future. So how do you build your contacts? Developing your network is easy because you know more people than you think you know. And this is just like what I mentioned before. Literally everybody that you meet is a network. Like I said, family, friends, roommates, significant others, school, faculty, staff, alumni, co-workers, neighbors, if you're a part of an organization or associations, if you go to the gym, anyone, if you are a regular at a coffee shop or something like that, or if you are religious and you go to church and stuff like that, the people that are in that organization or that institution can become a network as well. So everybody really is a network. Just to know if you want to put them in your network and keep in touch with them, you do have to talk to them and get to know them and have them know you. And that's really the hard part, I think, for a lot of people, is building those connections, because a lot of people are really shy, or they just don't know how to behave in like social but professional settings. And that's why you need to practice, because the more you do it, the easier it's going to be for you. And how do you maintain your contacts? So in my case, in film, this is something I've learned kind of through trial and error and through talking to people. I maintain communications once every 2 to 4 months, depending on the person. A lot of people are a lot more friendly and kind of expect you to show more interest, and other people are a lot more reserved, and they want to keep their distance. So it really depends. Some people I even go past 4 months, and some people I do sooner than 2 months. But you just really need to read the situation. And also, if you send an email or meet somebody in person, usually if you meet someone in person, you don't wait 2 months or 4 months to email them. You email them the next day or a couple days later or something, saying thank you, it was great meeting you and stuff like that. And then depending on what they reply, if they reply with a question or they're asking some information from you, you're definitely not going to wait 2 to 4 months to give them that information, because it's too late. So they're asking for information from you, you email them immediately the day after, something like that, but soon. And then if eventually you just say thank you, or the conversation kind of dies off, you just let it be, let it sit for a little bit. And then you email them back a little bit later with some information, or like if you find out they're working on a new project, or you found out that they got a new job or something like that, you congratulate them. And it shows that you're not just asking for favors, and it shows that you care about them, and it's more likely for them to care about you. You remain professional always, unless you've established a different relationship, which it happens. A lot of times your networks become your friends. And in that case, it's fine. But for the most part, you remain professional. And this is really important because you want to keep that impression up, like I've mentioned multiple times. And when they are thinking of people to recommend or something like that, they want to think of you. You want them to think of you. You don't want them to think of somebody else because they're more professional than you or something like that. You want them to be the first person. You want to be the first person that comes to their mind when they're thinking of people to hire, people to recommend, and whatnot. Like I said before, don't be a leech. Don't email only for favors. So yeah, just find out if they're into anything new or something like that, and you can go through there. And important, I mentioned this again, but I don't think I've said it like this. So seem interested in them. So you should be interested in them because these are the people that are going to give you your opportunities in the future. And so let's say that you're meeting them the first time in person. You're not going to go up to them and be like, hello, my name is Ivan, my favorite color is green, I have 3 dogs. I live in, I don't know, just name a place and just spew all of your life information, because they really don't care. But if you approach them and ask them questions and seem interested in them, it's more likely that they will give you information and start opening up to you, and then you can build up that connection, both personal and professional, and probably get their contact information. And then they will like you more and keep you in mind for future opportunities. And don't push too hard if something doesn't pan out. If somebody says no, don't be like, oh, come on, please, just give me an opportunity. I know I can do it and stuff like that. Because then it's just annoying. And you don't want to be that guy, right? It's okay to push sometimes, especially if it's in person and openings right now. But in person, you could be like, oh, well, just let me know if anything else opens up. I'm always open. Here's my contact information. And you can do that. It's a little bit less, I guess, overbearing, I guess, than if you're doing it through email and they say no, and then you're like, oh, come on, because then it just seems like you're almost complaining about them not giving you an opportunity, even though they literally don't owe you anything. So just really, you need to read the situation, and that's something that you need to learn kind of by trial and error. But yeah, just don't be too pushy. And like I said before, make as much as you can about them. So the more they seem like you're interested in them, the more likely they are to give you information. And that is really important, because if you make everything about yourself, they're probably just going to remember you as the guy that talks a lot, or the girl that talks a lot, or whatever. So, okay. So we're just going to skip to the questions. Yeah. Question. Okay. So since we're at the questions, anybody have any questions? Cool. Give me 1 second. So the first question is, do family members count as a network contact? Yes, they do. Quite a lot, actually, because usually your family members have jobs and have friends and stuff like that. And a lot of times they know people that could in some way be connected to your industry. For example, I know a story of a guy that now works for Lucasfilm, for Industrial Lights and Magic, which is the people that do the special effects for the Star Wars movies. And he was living in LA, and he was like a waiter, and he wasn't getting anywhere. And then he just asked his parents, he was like, oh, I'm gonna have to move back home, unless, like, is there anyone you know that can help me? And then the dad was like, well, I kind of know this person that works in the film industry, but I don't know. I mean, I can ask. I'll see if I get you an interview, right? And they got him an interview, and he went to the interview, and now he is one of the special effects artists for Industrial Lights and Magic. So yes, family can definitely be an important contact. Even if they don't think they know people, they might. They can be like, anyone even remotely related to the field might know your family members. With whom, where, and when should you network? everyone, everywhere, and always, I would say, but to an extent. Like, you're not going to go to somebody's funeral, for example, and then start talking about job opportunities to people. Like, you really need to know how to read the room that you're in. But if you're in a class and it's a class specifically for your major, for example, it's most likely that those people within the class are going to have similar interests or know people or have a friend or graduate and eventually work in the industry and stuff like that. So any opportunity that you see that is appropriate to network, you can use that as an opportunity to network. And I encourage you to do it, because really anyone can become a contact. Like, I was sitting one time at an airport and I sat next to this really nice lady, and she was just talking to me. She was like an older lady, and she was talking to me about just her life and stuff. And then she casually mentioned that her son had won an Oscar. And I was like, oh, what? Okay. So he was the sound designer for a really big movie, Birdman. I don't know if you've ever met him. If you've ever seen the movie. I've never met the guy, obviously, but it was just really cool. But my plane was leaving, so I couldn't like actually stay and talk to her. So I wish I had gotten there a little bit earlier to turn that into a possible networking opportunity. However, I really didn't have time. But like in that situation, it would be okay to ask for more information. However, it is very likely that she wouldn't have given it to me, since it is not her information, it's her family members. But you never know, right? How many people should be in your network? A lot. Like, as many people as you can handle, I think. You don't want to start neglecting people because you have too many people, or like spread yourself too thin and then not know who you're talking to and stuff like that. But you'll start building a stronger network as you go. At first, your network is going to be pretty weak, especially your professional network. But later on, you'll know who you can trust, and like I said, who's your power contacts and all that good stuff. Networking is difficult for shy people. Can you offer a few tips? Yes, usually. Well, I used to be really shy before I moved to the US, and I didn't know anyone, so I had to put myself out there, and then I am like really not shy anymore whatsoever. So really, I know it's hard, but really the advice that I have is put yourself out there. Even if you have to try to find a common interest and start by talking about that, because it's easier to talk about something you are comfortable with, even though if you're not comfortable talking to people, talking about something you're comfortable with is easier to talk about. So for example, if you're really into like computers or something like that, and you start talking about that, it's going to be easier for you to talk about than if the person wants to talk about, I don't know, tigers or something. I don't know why I thought of tigers, but in general, just try to find common ground that you're interested in as well, and it's going to be a lot easier for you to communicate. What do I do with all these business cards? How can I best utilize them? Well, it depends how many business cards you have, but hand them out. I mean, when you meet somebody, if you feel like you're actually getting like a connection and you feel like they're comfortable with you, you should offer them a business card. And you should carry around some with you, like in your wallet or something like that. I doubt you're going to hand out a huge amount a day. So just as long as you have a few in your wallet every day, just in case an opportunity comes up and you hand it out, and that works. And a lot of, like, for example, film parties and stuff. It's not really a party. It's like gatherings, I guess. Or like if you go to a film festival and stuff like that, if your film is in a film festival, you get invited to these like kind of like mixers, and a lot of people just leave their business cards on the table knowing that people will have to sit there to have a conversation or whatever. So just read the room, read the person, and if they're interested, do it. Like hand them your business card, or strategically place them places, but it is very, very unlikely that anybody will really pay attention to those. However, it does work sometimes. How do I keep track of all the people that I've met? That is a good question. I mean, it's hard to keep track of everybody that you meet, but like if I have their emails, I usually like favorite them or star them or something, and I know who I've met for what, or I put them in like subcategories in my Gmail or something like that. Which if you don't do, you should do, because it's easier to find the people. If I have their contacts in my phone, I usually put their name and then like what I know them from, so that way I know who it is. But like I said before, you kind of know who you keep as a contact and who you don't. the later on you go. So it becomes easier to keep in touch and to keep track of how many people you know. How do you make business cards? Well, you can have somebody design them for you and then print them for you, but it is a little bit more expensive. So I know how to use Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff like that. So I would do my own business cards. However, if you can't, use this as an opportunity to build your network. Try to find people within your organization or in your school or something like that that do like designing and do like graphic design and stuff like that. And ask them for a favor, or if they want to charge you, I don't know, however much they want to charge you. But use that as an opportunity to build a network and have them design your business card. And then you can order them online once you have the design. So getting business cards is pretty easy to do. It's just making them. If you don't have the knowledge of designing, that can be a little hard. Like at first I used to ask my friends to help me with designing stuff like that. And I still do sometimes when I don't have time or when it's something too complicated, because there's people that are a lot better than me at graphic design. But yeah, I would say if you really want business cards, use that as an opportunity to network and try to get people to help you do it. Do I have to be quote unquote attractive in order to network? Definitely not. People don't hire people because they're attractive, unless maybe if it's like a modeling job. But for the most part, they want people that are qualified, not people that are attractive. If you're the most attractive person in the world, but you're like really not qualified, you're not going to get the job. So no, you really don't have to be. So don't be worried about that. How do I find people who share my interests? Well, in college, usually there's a club for everything. So if you're trying to find, especially if you're trying to find people that share your interests, try to find your major related club. Like I'm in film, there's a film club at my school, but there's a lot of like business clubs, accounting stuff, and like theater clubs and whatnot. So it's really easy to get to know people in your trade and what you want to do by joining those clubs. If your school doesn't have a specific club for your major, you can always try maybe starting one. Like that'd be a good idea. And then a lot of people that are interested in the same field will kind of gravitate towards you. However, if you don't want to do that, you can just join other clubs, and odds are that you'll meet people like that. And you want to expand your horizons, I guess. So I recommend joining more than one club at first, and then seeing what you like, what you don't like, what works for you and whatnot. But that's really how you get to meet people in your field. How can social media sites be effectively used for networking? Well, social media sites can be effectively used for networking in many ways, especially if, like LinkedIn is specifically for networking, pretty much. So LinkedIn can be used for that specific purpose. But let's say that you don't have a LinkedIn, or you haven't made one, or you're too scared to add people on LinkedIn or stuff like that. There's a lot of Facebook pages, for example, for specific things. Like there's a bunch for film and film opportunities. I'm sure there's others for other stuff. So just look into it and see what you can find, and see if there's any groups that match your interests, and you can get it through there. But if you do Instagram, like I know a lot of people that have like home businesses or do their own stuff, do painting, designing, whatnot. And it doesn't only have to be for that, but like they use Instagram, right? And they post what they've done, and they get to meet people through there, and people follow them, and then they eventually like start talking. So yes, you can use social media sites for networking. And you should use social media sites for networking, because it is a good source of connections. If for some reason you feel like a bad reputation has been established, how can you repair it? I'm assuming this question is like if you feel like you yourself have a bad reputation. So I mean, it's hard. Like you don't want to get to the point where you have a bad reputation. However, if that happens, just try to meet people, because a lot of people, if they've heard about you, they will have a preconceived idea of you, whether it's good or bad. But once they meet you in person, they will start creating their own ideas, their own thoughts, their own opinions. So even if you do that, then you have to just work a little bit harder to prove that it's not true. Hopefully it's not true. So I would just say just keep doing it. Don't get discouraged, because if you just stop doing it completely, then there's no way that you're going to get anything out of it. So yeah, just show up and show them who you really are without having other people's influence. It seems like some people don't respond to emails. At what point would you recommend giving them a call, and how might you do that without seeming like a nuisance? Okay. So you should only give people a call if they have allowed you to give them a call. You shouldn't just call someone because, like, let's say they gave you their business card and they say like email me or contact me or something like that, and you've had like an emailing relationship. I don't believe you should call them. I think you should follow up and try to get a response. But it could be many reasons why they're not answering. They could be busy. They could I don't know, be traveling. They could be otherwise engaged, and you calling them might disrupt whatever it is they're doing. Or it's possible that they just, especially since you're usually the one trying to network up, it's possible that they just don't want to continue that contact. And I know that sounds harsh, but it happens sometimes. And if that happens, then there's no point in trying to continue that conversation if the other person doesn't seem like they're reciprocating. But sometimes they're just busy, so give them some time, and a lot of times they do end up replying, and they explain why there hasn't been responses. Can you give me an example of a proper introduction when networking? I'm assuming this is in person, but I'll go in person and online really quick. Yeah, so in person, you would go up to them, and you would just introduce yourself by name and shake their hand. That's a good professional introduction. And sometimes you can also say like what you do or what you want to do and stuff like that. So for example, I would go up to someone and be like, hello, my name is Ivan. And if you know their name, that's even better. Like, I'm just going to go with John Smith again. So hello, Mr. Smith, my name is Ivan, and I was hoping I could talk to you. I'm interested in editing or something like that. And then they'll be like, yeah, what's up? And then you'll just ask them the question that you have. Usually they're a lot more casual towards you than you should be towards them. Because like I said, you're the one that's trying to network up. You're the one that's trying to impress. Usually the people that you're networking with already have some rapport. So they don't have to be as like impressive towards you than you have to be towards them. And that's not because they think they're better than you or anything like that. It's just because they've usually been in the business longer and they understand what should and shouldn't be done and whatnot. So just go, show up, have a good handshake. Don't be, okay, awkward handshakes are really bad if you're meeting somebody for the first time. So try to have like a firm handshake and like a strong, like, hello, my name is, and state your name and state like what you do and whatnot. If it's through email, then it really depends. Especially if you know the person somewhat, like it's a different introduction than not. But if you've never met the person, then you have to, first of all, introduce yourself. So say like, I don't know, dear Mr. Smith, my name is Ivan, and I was giving your contact through this person, or I found your contact, or I saw your listing for whatever. And I believe that this and that and that. But like what you need to do is say your name. If you don't know them, state who you are. First of all, say their name, like say, dear blah, 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 and state your name, say who you are. If you think it's a little creepy how you got their information, try to explain how you got their information, because a lot of times you got it through like a friend or some common connection. But if you do get through a common connection, try to get that common connection to let them know that you will be contact them, and that way they don't get your information out of the blue. A lot of times people have like spam filters too, and they just filter out anybody that like they don't know if it's their professional email and stuff like that. So if you let your common connection know that you're going to be contacting them, they can put you in there, like, to make sure that you don't go to spam. So I think that's all the questions for now. So yeah, so I believe that's all the questions. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, feel free to contact me. There should be my number and my email. So you can contact me, and I'll do my best to get back to you. But yeah, thank you for coming, and have a good rest of the night.
Great, thank you, Yvonne. We will be moving on to the next workshop that will start in about 8 minutes. So just hang on tight.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jennnifer Quay. I am the next host for the Preparing for the New Semester webinar. We'll start in about 5 minutes, so get settled in, guys, and we will start shortly. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second workshop for the night, hosted by Jennnifer 𝙒𝙀. Jennnifer, take it away.
Hi. Oops, sorry about that. Hi, guys. Hello. I hope y'all are doing fantastic. I am seeing the chat and it's popping up, so thank you, guys. If we, let's see, are you all ready? All right, cool. I miss you guys too. Hi, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the Preparing for the New Semester webinar for Circle K at Orange Coast College's Key to College. As a former Kiwanis Family Chair, this is one of my favorite K-Fam programs, and I'm so honored that Michaela has invited me to share some tips and tricks with all of you about things that I wish I had known prior to college. We'll go ahead and start with an introduction of myself. So for the next slide, if we haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Jennnifer 𝙒𝙀, and I recently graduated from Cal State Fullerton with my degree in public health. But before that, I graduated from OCC with my degree in biology. It's very weird for me to say this, but I guess I was a former district governor for CNH. And for a whole year, I was the international trustee for Circle K International as a whole. But now I work part-time, or I'm sorry, I work full-time. Used to work part-time. I work full-time as a project coordinator and HIPAA privacy officer for Dow Medical Group in Garden Grove. I'll actually be going back to school soon to obtain my master's in public health. So if anybody has any questions about public health, come at me, guys. And as you can probably see, college goes far beyond the simple 4 years of undergraduate study. It goes on to getting your master's, and from your master's, probably it goes on to getting PhDs and further. But it really stems from the first few semesters that you create, not have, but the semesters that you create in college that really pave your way to success. So let's go ahead and begin. So congratulations, guys. You're going to college. All right, but now what? So aside from keeping your grades up for the last few months of high school, and trust me, when anyone says C's will just get degrees, it's not great for you to have only C's during your last semester of high school, because that really determines your things like financial aid and all of your, especially if you're joining honors programs, they don't want students who only are able to get the C's or the bare minimum when it comes to your last few months of high school. So make sure to keep your grades up, and you will also need to confirm whether or not you'll be attending the college that has accepted you. For example, this is where the SIR, or the Statement of Intent, comes in. For some schools, you won't need to pay for the intent, but for others, it may cost about $200 or so to reserve your spot with that college. So even though they've allowed you to come into that college and be a student, you still have to let them know that you're interested in being that student for that college, especially if you have been accepted to multiple colleges. However, the fee can be waived depending on your college. College can be expensive though, so please remember to choose wisely. It's not just about the name of the school. The program might be fantastic, but if your family cannot pay for you or help you to get into that college, there are many, many colleges and many options that you can use to really get to where you want to be and aspire to be. I personally spent very little to actually no money on my education by starting at OCC and then transferring to a CSU or a four-year university. Shout out to financial aid though, but no matter what the cost is, it's smart to open a checking account to manage your financial aid and other school fees that you'll need to pay for. Things like books, class materials, food. Those are just a few things that we'll be talking about tonight for all of our topics. If your school offers a new student orientation or a freshman welcome program, such as UCI's SPOT program, or a boot camp program for public health at Cal State Fullerton. Like, they really need to change the name of that, because when I saw that there was a boot camp program, I was like, are we doing push-ups because it's public health? Are we, dude, what are we doing? But it really was just a time for us to talk to our advisors and to choose our classes. But seriously, if you have any of those things, go to them. One, you'll make new friends and get valuable information from current students who are going to be your tour guides, for example, for that day, and all the staff members that you get to meet. If you can't attend, make sure that you get a tour of the campus. You can also download the college's portal or app from the App Store to check out some really great information, such as your class schedule, how many parking spots are available on campus. That has saved me so many times. And some professors even use the app for attendance, and that is the policy for some schools as well. But more on that later. So next, okay, we got into college, but how do we get to college? Like, physically get there. Depending on which school you attend, you might be looking into commuting or dorming options. Those who live or commute off campus, and their commute can be anywhere between a 5-minute drive, a little bit of a walk, or 1.5 hours. I have had many classmates who have driven about 2 hours to get from Northridge to OCC, for example. So you can do, you got to do what you got to do for college, but make sure commuting is an option you can afford, especially if you're going to drive and spend a ton of gas money. If you have someone who lives at home with you who can drop you off, fantastic. You'll spend 0 time looking for parking spots, but if you have friends who you can carpool with, awesome. Or people who are going to be willing to take you home and drive you home because you have the same class schedule. During my new student orientation, my orientation leader shared that students received huge discounts for public transportation cards. So for example, we would get an OCTA pass, and for my first year, that was actually completely free. I didn't have to pay for any of the bus rides by using my student ID card, and I could also use the bus trips for outside of school too. So let's say on the weekend, if I had to go to volunteer projects, I could use that. Dorming is a great experience to meet friends and to live on your own. Well, almost, unless you have roommates. Hopefully they're good roommates. If not, you are stuck in the contracts for a little while. Although it's an expensive option, you get to live on campus and wake up much later for class than your friends who spend an hour or 2 hours commuting to school. And if you forget things on campus, it's really nice to just walk over to that classroom, other than, not being able to come back onto campus for 2 days and leaving something very, very important in your lab. Although, parking spots are a treasure on a crowded campus. So you'll most likely be walking from campus to get across campus to get from place to place. It's the first week. Nobody wants to move their cars whatsoever, and you have to beg if you need to. But other than that, you're most likely walking. Whether you're commuting or dorming, you might want to bring a bike, a skateboard, or scooter, or I've even seen people rollerblade across campus, and it's pretty cool. It's super helpful if you only have 10 minutes to get between upper campus and lower campus, for example, and especially if it takes you about 30 minutes to walk across campus. But be sure to check with your campus's rules, though. Some allow skateboards to be ridden, but others have very strict policies. Speaking of parking, though, parking, the next slide, is very expensive, guys. Like, very, very, very expensive. But if you really need to park at your school may offer different types of parking permits for different types of vehicles or lots. Kayla, if you can move on to the parking slide. Thank you. For example, OCC's parking permit when I went was only about $30 for the entire semester. And for the first 2 weeks, parking was completely free. It might be a little bit different now, but not trying to, date myself, but back then it was pretty good. I also had a staff parking permit because I worked on campus, and there were special parking spaces for them. So that was really great, and I rarely had any problems with parking on campus. But when it came to Cal State Fullerton, even though I worked on campus, we weren't allowed to have a staff parking permit. And even for professors, they couldn't find parking spots sometimes. So it was really difficult. Students need to pay about, I think, somewhere between $250 or so or upwards for a semester on campus to park on campus. In my last semester at Cal State Fullerton, I decided to pay $70 for an off-campus parking permit and use Cal State Fullerton's shuttle system to get on and off campus. The thing was, for my last semester, I didn't need to be on campus for long periods of time every day compared to when it was my first semester there. Many of my classes were online, and my internship was off-site. So spending $250 wasn't really necessary for me. I've had friends at UCI who have had parking permits that only allow them to park in certain lots too. So be careful, because you still can be fined by your parking team at your school. Also, having a parking permit doesn't guarantee a parking spot. For at least the first month of school, you'll want to arrive about an hour, sometimes maybe even 2 hours early before your classes, to allow yourself time to find a parking spot. So be sure to get there early. Your school might also have a parking app that updates available parking spaces in real time for you. At Cal State Fullerton, they even posted them outside on the street near the parking structures. So before you even enter the lot, you'll be able to see how many spaces are there. But don't count on them, because they're not the most accurate sometimes. Having a parking permit might be mandatory to park on campus, but at least textbooks and materials are not always necessary to succeed in school. Let's go to that topic next. I remember going through registration day in high school, and I gave my class schedule to someone who was like a textbook helper in the library, and they went to get my books for me. Back then, I didn't have to pay for any books, so I didn't really care about the condition of them. For a lot of us, we kind of just threw them in the locker or used them as some type of paperweight. But if I didn't need a book, it would just stay there in my locker. It was definitely a little bit different when it came to college. After I registered online for my classes, I checked the school's bookstore to see which books or materials were quote unquote required, and I'll talk about this in a little bit later, required for the class and anything that was supplemental reading. And you bet that none of the college students actually ever purchased the supplemental reading part, because that's just way too much money on top of it. Sometimes if it's a core class, or in this case, a class that you have to take in order to graduate with your degree, that's called a core class, buying the book is necessary. And especially if you're going into postgraduate education, that might be helpful for you in the future as well. But if you realize you don't like the professor, or you actually don't like the course, there's really no need to buy the materials right away if you know that you are going to drop the class. Some schools actually only provide a certain number of weeks before you can return something for no additional fee. So you just want to be sure, and you want to make sure about that too. I had a professor who was one of my favorites. She had to put a quote unquote required reading section in her syllabus, which is prompted by the school. But on the first day of class, she literally said it was an awful book, and the class did not need to purchase anything to get an A. And it was a computer-based class because it was statistics. And most of the time, her notes were more than sufficient to just get an A in the class. So ask former students, check out forums like Rate My Professor to see if you'll actually need any of the materials. Better yet, why not just message your professor ahead of time and ask to save you some time and money? Better yet, sometimes some courses and colleges actually offer free limited access though to books. So if you realize that, I'm kind of iffy about this class and this professor because I've seen people have some really bad ratings on Rate My Professor, I'm not sure if I want to commit to this yet. So you still have time. Hopefully your school has this offer for the book that you have for that course to have free limited access to it. Sometimes there are also free copies to check out in the library. If you really need to purchase materials, though, make sure you bring cash, you have a debit or a credit card, or a checkbook, and even some transactions at Cal State Fullerton were Titan card only, meaning you had to load money onto your ID card, and that was pretty much like a debit card, and you use it like a reloadable gift card. Students also create buy and sell groups on social media. where some past students will sell books or materials for a cheaper price, and then people will bargain for these cheaper materials. I once bought 2 books for $40 through that buy and sell hub, while the school was selling them for $120. You should know the different options you have when it comes to rentals, used books, and new books as well. For the most part, for my college career, I rented books. And while renting was the cheapest option that my schools offered, I didn't need to worry about reselling books or having them sit in my shelf and wonder, when am I ever going to use this again? I have no idea. I was really nervous about my books getting damaged or lost, though, especially if I found out that I didn't use them throughout the semester the way that my professor had told me. Then I was like, oh my gosh, where did this book go? I've never even opened it. But I have also bought used books if all the rental books ran out. They were much less expensive than new books, and I could resell them to the college through buyback programs. But if the school wasn't always willing to buy back books, especially if the books were going to be taught by a different professor, or if the book was retired from the course, that would be a little bit difficult. Used books could also be really damaged. And I am somebody who goes crazy if there are a bunch of highlights in the books already. For some other people, they're like, great, that's less for me to study. But you have really no idea if the person before you who highlighted those were actually your professor, because your professor might ask you different questions. If that drives you crazy, you might want to avoid this option. Or when you go through the bookstore or even any used books, look through the books to see if, one, there's any damage, and document that so that you're not going to be the one responsible for it if you resell it. But the other option is to buy new books. New books sold off campus, and I say off campus, might be cheaper than the books, well, usually are cheaper than the books that are sold on campus. They have a higher resale value if you decide that you want to sell your book afterwards, and they aren't damaged when you get them. No dog ears on the pages, no ripped pages, no highlights, no pencil scratches or anything like that. Some books are offered online for free, though, through open source or by your professor. I've also had professors who have given their students free links. They said, download this. I do not want you to pay for a book. But if you're a kinesthetic learner, which means that you need to flip through the pages when you read, or you need to make notes or anything like that, or you don't have access to a laptop, you might have to spend money on printing those pages. All right, so that was a really long section. Thanks, guys, for bearing with me. If you have questions, just make sure that you put them in the chat box, and we'll be ready to answer them towards the end of the webinar. But next, you have your materials. Now let's go ahead and head to class for the next slide. Your college's app might have a portal where you can access your class schedule and campus map through your phone. But let's say if your Wi-Fi connection is spotty, which happens all the time because there are so many dead spots on campus where the Wi-Fi will not connect, and there will always be a problem with your phone with the Wi-Fi somehow, and you're running out of data. Who knows what it might be? You will want to print your schedule and map or screenshot them on your phone beforehand. A few weeks before my first semester at college, my mom was pestering me to go onto campus on a calm weekend, before classes started, before all of that insanity, to find my classes in buildings. And as annoyed as I was, because I wanted to enjoy my summer vacation, blah, 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 taking the time to do that before I ended up rushing between classes was actually really, really great advice. Legally, classes need to start at least 10 minutes apart from each other. But when you have a class that ends at 6:50 p.m. and another class that starts at 7 p.m. across campus, there's no time to be, you're going to be unprofessionally late and use "I was lost" as an excuse. That definitely won't fly with strict professors, especially if they're professors who are like, I'm going to lock the doors at 7 p.m. because people are late, and that's not okay. Something like that. If you need help in the end, ask. So Circle K at Orange Coast College actually manages a welcome day table for the first week of campus. Members not only the first week of each semester on the campus. Members not only provide free campus maps, but can also take you directly to your classes if it's a really confusing part of the building. If you need to speed walk or run up a few flights of stairs for classes, never, ever, ever think that the elevators or the escalators are going to be, one, working unless they're under construction, or two, they won't be full. So please plan accordingly. If you made it to your class, great. So now where are you going to sit? Okay, really, it depends not only on your preference, but it also depends on your professor or your campus. Some campuses might have really, really small rooms, for example. For example, Chapman, sometimes their classes are about 30 students large. So they don't need really, really large classrooms. That picture on the bottom is actually at Orange Coast College, and that's the Robert B. Moore Theater. So we literally took a class with about 300 other people inside that theater. So sitting way in the back might not be very helpful. Sitting way in the front, you might be a little bit more self-conscious about that. But that really is up to you at that point. However, there are certain places that your professor or your campus will tell you to sit. If attendance is mandatory, there might be a seating chart outside, and you want to just make sure that you see that outside. If your professor takes roll using a sign-in sheet or even the school's app, they'll be a little bit more lenient on where you sit. If you are an enrolled student, which means that you are for sure in the class, you can sit wherever you'd like. But if you are waitlisted or petitioning for a class, and these are students who finds that once they registered for the class or tried to register for the class, there was no more space in the class. So that means you can add yourself onto a wait list, or you would come stop by the class and you're going to stay in the class and remain there until someone drops out or someone doesn't show up on the first day. Then if you are one of those students who are waitlisted or are petitioning, just be a little bit courteous and give your seat to someone who is already enrolled. Then sit in another spot or stand towards the back of the class unless otherwise noted by the professor. Depending on the class, they might even just take everybody who is waitlisted or petitioning. But for other classes like biology or chemistry, especially at Orange Coast College, if you are maybe part of the top 5 for the waitlist, you might be able to get in. But if you are anything further than that, you won't be able to get in. So pay attention to your campus's class drop deadlines. All college students have dropped a few classes in their college career. For me, I should have dropped more classes, but instead I received decent grades in some of those classes. It's okay to drop a class, especially if you know that you're having a difficult semester with family, with jobs, with all of your other coursework, and it's too much for you. Drop that class before the deadline. And because if you drop a class after a deadline, you will have W or withdrawal, which stays on your transcript. And even worse, if you think you can make it through the class and you realize that at the end you're about, a C- or a D+ student, you would have to retake the class, and you only have a limited number of times that you can retake a class. So it's better to just drop it and get it out of your transcript. If you have an online class, what do? So make sure you know when the course starts. Some are only half-term classes, and they don't start until maybe later in the term or maybe in the beginning of the term. But after that, you don't have to worry about the class anymore for the rest of your 8-week term. If you're on a semester system, half-term is 8 weeks and full term is 16 weeks. But regardless of the class, you may have lecture or assignments that need to be turned in on the first day or the first week. So please be careful. Anticipate that you are going to be learning and going through lecture, because there are some professors who, for example, if it's a once-a-week class and your once-a-week class is about 2 or 3 hours, the professor might only be spending the first 30 minutes of class talking about the syllabus and the materials. Then they give you a break, and then they say, all right, we are no way canceling class because we have way too much material to cover, so we're going to start hard on our lectures in 30 minutes. See you guys in 5 minutes, and we're going to just run through it in a little bit. So literally, you're getting your first week's lecture in your first week. So don't think that it's going to be a free, cool day to slack off. It never is. But be careful with different deadlines, especially for the online classes. It's really easy to forget the deadlines. So make sure that you put something in your calendar for those, for the assignments. Sometimes online classes, like hybrid classes, require you to go on campus to take exams and quizzes. But true online classes have pretty much everything done online. So make sure that you know which class you are signing up for, if they're hybrid or if they're truly online classes. So one of the most important parts of college is food, guys. We're going to talk about food next. Okay, so this is really, really exciting for me. I could now buy my own food or heat up my own food at a microwave in the food court. Like, that was really exciting for me, and I don't know why, but it really was. There was variety, and I was like, oh my God, there's so many things that I can eat. And I was really bored with high school food or OCC food, because by that time, when I first started OCC, we didn't even have like a cafeteria. It literally was a, what do you call that? Like a temporary building, or a temporary, yeah, one of those. And literally that was where we had our lunch. And it was pretty bad. But that's history. That also meant that I had to be spending money on food if I was going to be buying food, and I didn't have time to microwave my food or pack a lunch. No more free reduced lunch every weekday, which was the program that I was on. But you could also have access to on-campus dining options or food trucks too. Like, I died when I realized that I could eat Panda Express on campus at Cal State Fullerton. But then I died because I was over at Panda Express within the first week at Cal State Fullerton. Another thing that would be really cool is if you download either, okay, there's like some controversy behind the pronunciation of this. It's either Tap and Go or Tapingo. But it's amazing, and it allows you to order on your phone, kind of like Uber Eats or something, and they prepare the food for you, and you just run across campus to the food vendor. You pick it up from them, and you pay through the app. So that was really nice. There are also tons of food and snack freebies at the first 3 weeks of school, provided by different student organizations who are trying to recruit you, or your campus's associated students, or ASI or ASB if you had that in high school. So check out the announcements. You'll find them in your school's quad. Sometimes your department will even have freebies for you too. So just make sure that you check your school emails for that. Depending on the classroom and the professor, you'll be able to bring food as snacks. One of my professors actually allowed us to bring in full-on meals for an evening class, because it was from 7 p.m. to 9:45 p.m. and even she didn't have time to eat. So during our break time, we would all just munch on food. If you're dorming and you bought a food plan, you're going to be people's best friends. You just need to use those swipes, but if you don't use those swipes, you can have your friends come in and you can swipe in meals for them, and they will be so great. So if you have, different swipes and stuff, that would be really, really amazing for people. I never got to experience that, and hopefully your school has really, really great dorm food. Like, for example, UCLA, I think, has Korean barbecue night, and so everybody just like finds friends to swipe in, so that's really great. But now that you're in college, you have classes, and that's really great, but now you have downtime between your classes. Like, what do you do? There's lots of things to do on campus. Sometimes universities are like their own little mini cities. If you have never hung out in the library in high school, like some people in my high school were like, why would I hang out in the school library? Ew. Get ready for your life to be changed, guys, because most of your time will be spent in the library. You can reserve study rooms, and I know that for OCC and Cal State Fullerton Circle K clubs, the open study rooms were like our hangout spots to be in. No matter what, we would just go. Like, Cal State Fullerton literally has its own spreadsheet on who reserves certain rooms for which days and where we can meet. And literally we will pack like 20, 30 people into that room if we can. There's always going to be like someone in that room. And students also have different floors. Like the open study rooms, you can be not as loud as you want, but just kind of be respectful. But there are certain floors that are like quiet floors and for studying, and there are certain other floors where it's like everybody's just like yelling at each other. You also have student unions at Cal State Fullerton, for example. We have the underground, and that's where we would have billiards or pool. We would have video games that they can rent now. Like, that's crazy. We had table tennis, ping pong. We had bowling as well. So you can also relax at your campus's gardens, any parks that you have. Aldrich Park is amazing. And in your food court, and you can even work out at the gym too, because you are paying for that service when you are paying for your registration fees. So no matter what, you will find friends. As long as you are friendly and you take part in the campus's opportunities and student life, you will be able to find friends. Speaking of opportunities, next slide, college is a way for you to really expand your identity. So go out, join clubs, volunteer, conduct research, do things that you're passionate about, earn scholarships from conducting research, get internships. And some majors actually require you to do it by the time that you graduate. Look for jobs on and off campus, attend conferences. Campus workshops are things that I wish I had known more about, because they're just like, come in and we will take a look at your resume. Come in and we will help you interview, and all of those great things that I didn't take advantage of until it was the end of my basically college career. And that was really sad. And it was really something that I wish I could have taken more advantage of when I was in college. Go to campus events. Go to the Student Health Center if you have any pain and you can't get to your doctor because your doctor is far away, or if because you're out of state or anything like that, or you can't afford hefty medical expenses just in general. Go there. They have a lot of great things for you. I think even at Cal State Fullerton, they had a chiropractor on site, so you could go and, get chiropractic done. And I really should have done that, because everyone has said that their appointments were amazing and that they felt so much better about life. And so Cal State Fullerton students, I know if you guys are in here, go do that. Not that, I'm a public health major or anything, but you should go do it. Okay, cool. Go to tutoring and be a part of the supplemental instruction program if they have it on your campus. It's free. You get free, basically, tutoring, free ways to get A's in your class, basically. Go do those. Be proactive, and you'll make more friends when you go to these extra things too. Trust me, when I was a supplemental instruction leader at Cal State Fullerton, people have literally, when they came into my sessions, they left as like best friends. And I mean, 3 years ago, that was when they were my students, and now we're still doing like secret Santa hangouts. And it was a completely voluntary program, and they all got A's, and now they're, like crazy. It's just crazy. Like, it's amazing program. So you won't be able to have that if you don't go out and explore. College is an adventure. And it's also, some advice that I wish I had followed early on. For example, talk to your professors, advisors, campus staff. They're humans too, and they're often just as nervous as you are and eager to know a few familiar faces. So, for example, you might be attending class with 200 students and you have one professor. But let's say that you are doing a presentation every day in front of those 200 students, and you have absolutely no idea who is who. Like, it would be really nice to just have people that you know, right? So that's how your professors are feeling too. So trust me, just talk to them. Stop by for office hours, participate in class. Like, I was able to get a bunch of jobs, research opportunities, scholarships, internships, and really life advice from one of my professors. Literally, I went back to school recently to visit her, and she gave me life advice about like masters, about where to work, about even doing letters of recommendations. Like, she was like, ask me, please use me as a past professor because I want to help you because you also helped me as a student. So it's just build that relationship with them and have pretty much that friendship with them, honestly. If you find that your major is no longer your passion, it's okay to change. I went from being a bio major to figuring out that, I really wanted to be more invested in education and educating people about their health. And a lot of times for some people at Orange Coast College especially, they go into a bio major And then they're confused as to why they're studying about plants. They're confused as to why they're studying about zoology. Remember that sometimes when you're in your undergrad, it's not specific to what you want to do. If it was super, super specific to what you wanted to do, there would not be master's programs for you to go into your field, to be a little bit more specialized in your field. There would not be, if you could be a doctor in undergrad, there is, no reason for going to medical school. But if you feel that you don't like your major, it's okay to change. I went from being a bio major, and that was something that I did mediocre in. I got by. I graduated. Like for me, it was mediocre work. For some people, they're just like, yes, I got a C. For me, it was just like, oh my God, why am I doing this and getting mediocre grades and I'm trying to transfer, right? So then I went into public health, and I really didn't have much of an understanding of what public health was. But I did it anyway, and it turned out to be my passion in life. So it was really great, and I was really lucky to be able to do that, to go from one field that kind of related to what I wanted to do. But honestly, to get into public health, you didn't have to take bio classes. Like I had to take an extra year off from bio to actually get the classes that I needed for public health. But that 1 year alone changed my life, because now I love what I do. And if you don't have a passion yet, that's completely fine. I have had friends from UCI who actually have said that they wish in the future, if they had a choice, they would have their kids go to a community college, because the curriculum from community college and the first 2 years at universities are the same thing. You're taking your prerequisites, you're taking your English courses, your history courses, your oceanography courses, a few courses here and there for your upper divisional, which means that upper divisionals are things that you can get more in depth with and specialize a little bit more in with your courses in your major. But honestly, a lot of it is going to be similar in a lot of different places. So if you have financial burdens, you might be looking into a community college, and that's okay. It's the same curriculum. So if you don't have a major, that's your time to explore. That's completely fine. It's better to not have a major and then find something that you love and declare that major early on, and just realizing that you hate it and you are doing so poorly in all the classes that you had. But if you have found all of your passions, and you have so many passions, and you're just like, I'm doing great in this major and this major and this major, awesome. Go for it. Double major. We don't triple major because that's a lot of coursework, but if you want, go ahead and double major. That's completely fine too. But again, college is about challenges. College is not easy. They're about different things and opportunities that college provides you. So take them as opportunities to grow. And for example, when I was extremely pessimistic about my future, my professors were really the ones who were, and my friends were really the ones who said, why are you so worried about your future? Because we have taught you, we have been your friends, you were our mentor. We're not worried about you. Like in the best way possible, we're not worried about you, because you don't realize it, but you're setting yourself up for success. And you're just really hard on yourself, which is why you think that you won't be able to make it and you're nervous about it. But we know you will. And that's the same mentality that we have for all of you who are going into college for the first time, who are maybe in college and are going to transfer to a university soon. So at the end of this, the final thing that I have to say is for you to breathe. Take that same advice that my professors and my friends have given me. You will be okay. There are thousands of people on campus who feel the same way you do about college, about trying to succeed, about whether or not you'll fit in your first day, whether that's your first day at college, that's your first day in that semester, or even your last day in college. Everyone has the same doubts, the same fears, the same worries, and that's completely fine. Again, college is not simple. College is actually very difficult for some people. college was a challenge, but honestly, college has been some of the best years of my life, and I have met some of the best people that I've been lucky enough to meet. And I hope that those years for college will be as exciting and as adventurous for you as well. And if you have any questions, we are here for you. And with that being said, I will be more than happy to answer some questions that you might have. Right. Okay. So how do you make friends and talk to your professors? I was really, really nervous my first day as a transfer student. It was like, I have made so many memories at OCC. I have made so many friends, so many advisors that I've been able to call family at OCC. And I spent so much time there in my undergrad that now I'm transferring over to it was a university. Like sometimes that word scares people a lot. So I really don't know how I did it, but I just went out of my way to do whatever I could. So for example, if you are somebody who is in, well, if you're attending this and you're in high school, I'm pretty sure you're a Key Club member or a QNs member, or as a Kiwanis family member. When you go into college, you're going to have Circle K members who are there either around you, or if there's no Circle K club there, then that's okay. But if you're going to go ahead and transfer, you're going to move on from high school to college, like there will be people there to help you, whether or not they're going to be in Circle K, whether or not you find another passion. And, there's no Circle K on campus, so you want to charter one. Haha, that's really cool. So go ahead and charter one. But really, as long as you are out there and you take the opportunities and you're excited, do not wait for opportunities to come to you. For example, my first semester at Cal State Fullerton, and the professor who, was my professor, and she was the one who was giving me life advice and about letter of recommendations. And she was the one who actually nominated me for a position for work that just opened up. And they had to make a special case for me because they don't interview people who have just transferred to the school. But I worked my booty off to research as much as I can about my new school. And granted, I was only at Cal State Fullerton for like 2 months or so. So I did all of this work to research, and I ended up getting the job. And a few years later, I became a senior leader. So I was in charge of who I was hired to be in the beginning. And now I'm mentoring 135 people in this company. So that was really great. But don't wait for opportunities to come. Go on to like the school, college, campus, club website and look at all the clubs that they have and things that you might be interested in. Start contacting people because they're really, really interested in recruiting people and having new members come in and be leaders. So get excited for that. Pros and cons of morning classes. It really is up to you. If you're a morning person, great. Take morning classes. And if you can be up at 7 a.m., okay. Like for whatever reason, I decided to take an astronomy class that was at 6 a.m. at Orange Coast College for 8 weeks. I forced myself to be a morning person, and I'm really more of like an afternoon, evening person. I forced myself to do that, and every single time the professor turned the lights off, and I was like, why are you turning the lights off at 6 a.m. for an astronomy class? And you would think like we would be out and looking at stars. No, we were in a lecture hall the entire time because that class was not advanced enough, apparently, to go outside and look at telescopes and look at like the world, right? So I ended up falling asleep every single time. And so did my fellow classmates. They were like, oh my God, you're turning off the lights and it's 6 a.m. This is not good. So if you are a morning person, pick morning classes. If you have work in the mornings, for example, then you might have to rethink about your class schedule. How do you pick a major? Try out a few different things. And if it's like a path that you really want to choose, then you go and be excited for it. But how do you know if you're choosing the right thing? It's not just about the coursework. It's about going out and volunteering in the field or interning in that field and getting more understanding about that field. So this is why talking to professors and exploring more about that department or whatever major it is that you chose is so important, because some people are really, really great when it comes to, like, for example, I was pretty good in my studies. I got scholarships, awards, honor stuff like that. But like I was okay at it in my expectations. I was okay at it. But work, I excel when it comes to work outside of classes. So for some people, the major can be really, really great and they can get all A's and stuff like that. But when it comes to the real world work, they struggle with that. And so they think, oh my God, was I in the right major? Was I A, B, C, D, E, F, G? And then for some people, they might be struggling with the coursework, but in the real world with their internships and their volunteering, they love it. So it depends on you. You should try out both and then see if it's something that you're really, really passionate about still. Is peer pressure real in college? Peer pressure is real in life. No matter what, it's just going to be difficult. But I think college is a time for you to explore and see if there are things that you really, really, really are like a hard no on. You don't want to do this, and that has to do with your morals. You're growing. Your morals change. Your right and wrong changes. So make sure that if there is pure pressure, that you are still true to who you are, and it's not something that's going to, you know, your morals do change, but there are certain times where it's just you're set with your morals and how your personality is. So just be careful with that. But if people are peer pressuring you in negative ways, whether it's your, you know, family or your significant other, or you've joined an organization and you're like, whoa, alarm, alarm, something's not right and I don't feel comfortable doing this, then maybe you should take a step back and start thinking about what is something that you would do and that you're comfortable with. College is about taking risks and doing that, but it's supposed to be positive pressure. It's supposed to be eustress in the way that you're excited to do these things. It's just why you're stressed out, because you're just like, I'm so excited, versus something that you're extremely uncomfortable with doing. Is freshman 15 real in college? I actually lost 15 pounds when I first joined college. So it really is up to, you know, your body and everything like that. I can't tell you. Yeah, just, I don't know. If you have the opportunity to go to the gym and do something that you like, for example, like I can't do the gym. I cannot do the gym, but I can do other things that distracts me, like bouldering, like badminton, like swimming. Like those are the things that I enjoy doing. And I think if you're active, then you enjoy that stuff, you don't really think about whether or not you're working out and you're like having to do reps and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's up to you. It doesn't, do not make it a goal for freshman 15 to be a true thing. But it really is up to you. What are some healthy and affordable alternatives to eat when stress eating? Ooh, okay. Things that are affordable and healthy. This is hard because I can't give you medical advice on this in terms of working in a medical group. It really is up to you and how much you're willing to spend and the things that you like. Here's what I like to go by. Not everything is bad. For example, if you want to eat that chocolate bar, eat that chocolate bar. I think this goes into the public health world of being able to not stop people from doing what it is that they should not do. It's kind of redundant, but it's about teaching them a different way that they can use to adopt their own lifestyle. It's hard to tell somebody, no, you need to be eating healthy, versus making small changes and making sure that you are still enjoying life, whether it's that candy bar, whether it's that, you know, that boba, that boba, or whatever it is, that ding tea, for example, or share tea. That's fine. Go get it, but don't eat it every day to the point where it's going to be harmful to your health. If I love broccoli, I don't consider that as a healthy food, like, oh my God, it's healthy. Yeah, I just like eating it. It just happens to be healthy. So add in more things that would be healthy for you, but at the same time, things that you enjoy. Moderation is key, but don't be like, I'm not going to eat any sugar. You need sugar to live, guys. I'm not going to eat any carbs. You need carbs to live. Yeah. How do I stand out in college if I am trying to transfer? Take those opportunities. I had an identity crisis transferring, and I had an identity crisis as a new graduate. One, I had built so many relationships, like I said before, at OCC, so now I had to start over. And even though I know people in Circle K, and I was, of course, going to join Circle K again, it was still difficult, having to pretty much not restart, but it's not restarting, but in your mind, you freak out because you're like, oh my God, I have to start my life over. Who am I? What do I do? And you're going to be fine. Don't worry too much about it. Your accomplishments and who you are and your personality, they have gotten you this far already. If you are transferring, and I assume that this is transferring from a not really 2-year, but a community college over to a university, just keep doing what you're doing and things will fall into place, but make sure that you are actively seeking opportunities and taking them. Is a job recommended while being a student? I would, because I think that those are some very, very valuable skills that you can take. Maybe you are financially stable with your family and your family is like, you're not going to work. We are going to pay for you. And I think that happened for the first 3 years of my life. I wanted to work, but I was not allowed to work because, my family was scared that I would be working and not paying attention to my education. But for me, it was about skill building. For me, it was about independence. For me, it was about, I know the value of money and how hard, that is, especially for my family who is, has financial hardships. And that's the route that I wanted to go on. But despite all that, despite the money, despite however much time you spend in working and stuff, it really is about the skills that you're building. Whether you are financially stable or not financially stable, it's about those skills. And really, I don't think I would be able to go as far in college, at Cal State Fullerton, in my professional life, and even in my undergrad extracurricular activities with research and everything like that, had I, not taken those skills, extra skills that I learned from work, and put that into my college experience. What are college classes like compared to high school classes? Ooh, it kind of depends on what your classes are like now. For example, I know that my little brother, he is going to go to high school soon, and when I was younger, we didn't even think about college, and people didn't even reach out to us about college, really. Like, recruiters didn't reach out to us about college until my senior year. Now they're starting people from elementary school and talking about colleges and saying, here's someone who has, they have banners now about people who are getting accepted into college programs who went to that elementary school. It's crazy. And I really think that school districts are putting a lot more effort into making classrooms, into making courses a little bit more similar to college courses. For example, if you were caught with a laptop or an electronic device where I was in high school, like, that would be confiscated. And now they're taking notes on laptops in class, and every class has a certain set of laptops for each of the students. And I think that's very similar to what the college experience is like, especially when it's in those classes. So it really depends on what your experience has been like. I was very happy to know that when I got onto campus, for example, and I was scared to whip out my phone because in high school, we would have those confiscated. And now professors are just like, okay, take out your phones and do some research for the next 10 minutes about your topic. And I'm like, we are allowed to use our phones and no one's going to take them away from me? Like, what is this? So it really is different from your high school experience to what college would be. But again, this time, no one's really telling you and meeting up with you and saying, BT dubs, you like have an F in the class or something like that. And but then again, I've had professors who have done that, who have literally sat me down and said, you need to come to my office hours because your grades are slipping and I want to know why and I want to know how I can help you. So if your high school professor has done that, or if your high school teacher has done that and has, walked you through and held your hand through that, some college professors might do the same. Especially if you're participating in class and they understand that you're struggling. I had a professor who literally was just like, I know that you're struggling in class and I am going to allow you to redo all of the papers that you had average scores on, and I want you to get a better grade in this class. So it really depends on your professor. But you are, again, in charge of you. These are your, no one is going to call your parents up and say, this is your child's report card. Make sure that you are reading more with them. Make sure you're doing all this stuff. This college is on you now. You are responsible for this. Whether you're doing fantastic, you take responsibility for it. Whether you're doing poorly, you need to make a change, because your parents are not going to be there to help you and discipline you. And maybe they will. I'm sure they will. But it's not like they will have direct access to your counselors to talk about you and your school principals and everything like that, and school presidents to talk to you about that. That's really your responsibility now. What if I get homesick? Save up money and visit home if you live far away. And just take the time out for you to not only focus on school, but also be able to focus on your personal life. And that really is about the mental health aspect that I love, that especially Circle K International, when I started, we were not as focused on mental health and, taking care of our members and saying, you know what, if you need to go, you do your thing. If you need to go and visit home, do your thing. That's great. Go for it. So I really like that aspect is changing, and that mental health and self-awareness and self-care is something that, is being pushed for. And you know what, if you are homesick, go do that. You are allowed to ask your professors and say, hi, is it okay if I miss this class or this week of classes? I really want to, there's something at home that I just have to take care of. And they'll be understanding with that, especially if you are a student who is doing well in the class. But also, even if you're not doing well, but you are actively trying to be interactive in the class and the professor knows you, then they trust you and they're like, go for it. I've had a professor who I was just like, I'm so sorry, I need to leave for this conference, and that means I would have to miss your class. And I was really apologetic about it. And that professor literally sent me like a 5-paragraph essay about how proud they were that I was doing like extracurricular activities and conferences and stuff. And you're just like, oh my God, I thought you were going to yell at me, but I guess not. So that's okay. Do what you got to do. Cool. Let's see, 3 more minutes. Yeah. What's it like eating in dining hall? I'm sorry, I don't have information on this because no one swiped me in, guys. But I don't have information on that, but you guys can do the research and let me know. And yeah, because I never got to dorm, and my friends were never that gracious to invite me to the halls, but that's fine. Yeah. Okay, and I think we have an audience question. When should I start to find internships? Okay, so for me, I started the year, or I started thinking about internships the year before I needed to take my internship course. Depending on your major, you may or may not have to take an internship course, which is the course, but actually taking an internship outside for that course. That sounds a little bit confusing. So for my public health year, the last class that we are supposed to take is the internship class. And this class is based on finding an internship and writing about your experiences and creating a portfolio on what it is that you learned about that internship and that opportunity that you had. I was kind of freaking out about this because I was just like, I don't know where to find internships. I just don't know. So if you are already in the Kiwanis family, and you have been able to volunteer with many, many different types of organizations, which is one of the beautiful things about Circle K, because we're not geared towards a specific field. We do a lot of things for everybody. Go ahead and see something that maybe your professor for that class says that you need to find something that's going to be about whichever major or path you've chosen. For example, I really wanted to, my concentration was about community health education and disease prevention. And I got to work with organizations or reach out to organizations and say, hey, I have done this and I volunteered for you and you did this thing beautifully and I want to be a part of it for an internship. You can even go onto your school's career center and they will let you see all of the different openings and you can apply for those different internships. Ask your classmates because that was really how I was actually invited to become an intern. Lots of organizations know that that year, for example, that end period of when you graduate is your internship time. And a lot of people who have already, left that internship and they are trying to fill in more spots because this is a really great program, the internship program that organization has, and they want to keep it going year after year, right? So someone came into my classroom and was talking about the internship opportunity. And this was for the American Heart Association. And I was just amazed because I was like, oh my God, it's like a big organization and I want to be a part of it. There was actually no application process. It was like, are you interested? If you are, then you are in. And that was pretty much that. And that was my internship. And part of my internship was volunteering, pretty much things that I already do for Circle K International, just going out volunteering, keeping track of a Google Drive, writing minutes for our weekly meetings. So things, those things that I already had experience from with Circle K. So my internship was pretty much like a breeze. And then after that, then I ended up, writing a report about it for my class course. So I made a portfolio about it. I documented the things that I did, the places that I attended. I put in all the pictures where I was volunteering and stuff. And that was my internship course. So if you have connections in Circle K or in any other places that you have for extracurricular activities, take them. Ask if they have an internship program. And if they don't, then ask how you can start volunteering for it. And then they can introduce you to other programs that have internship opportunities. So just again, some of the opportunities won't come straight to you. You just have to do a little bit of hard digging when it comes to that. But take those opportunities and don't be afraid because everybody always freaks out about an internship. So just apply, ask people, see. You never know. All right, guys. So it's 8:02, and unfortunately, that comes to the end of this presentation. But finally, don't be afraid to reach out and ask me any questions that you have. My email is jennifer.h.quay, QUE@gmail.com. Thanks for coming. Thank you so much. I hope you had some fun or have learned more information about preparing for college, whether you are heading into college or whether you are transferring later on. Don't be afraid to reach out if you have any questions or concerns about high school, about college, about careers, or anything about life in general. Bye, everybody. Have a great night and have an even better future, guys. See you soon. Bye.
Hi. Thank you to everyone for attending tonight's workshop. Thank you to our hosts, Yvonne Haas and Jennnifer Quay. Please make sure to sign in at this bit.ly link on the sticky note. It'd be much appreciated for attendance purposes. Thank you. Oh, I will be posting it on the event page for easy access.